Hey y'all, I got an anime channel called Mystic Sage, where I do anime top 10s, speculations, and more. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch to keep up to date with me, the channel, and even for some entertainment. Links will be in the description below. Thanks guys, enjoy the video. Before you guys think that there isn't anything special about today's best team for normal types, let me stop you. The normal typing is actually awesome, regardless of its lack of super effective damage over anything. Without its existence and some of the very cool Pokemon that have this typing, I think that Pokemon as a whole would probably be a bit less special. Don't ever forget that normal type Pokemon can be just as good as any other typing. At this point, you guys have a good idea of the rules, so you know how things go. But I'll mention it all again. A Pokemon can only appear once on one of these teams, so you could possibly not end up seeing Diggersby on this team, but you could still see it on the best team for ground types. A big thing to mention for you all to keep in mind as always is that these typing teams should be viewed more as theme teams to have decent fun with, rather than something you should take into the Monotype tier. Also, Pokemon Sword and Shield have been out for over a week now, and I'm sure you guys have been getting way into the games just like me. But just keep in mind that these best teams don't include the 8th generation, and all strategizing is built to be used in Ultra Sun and Moon. With that out of the way, let's get back to normal and get into this team. At this point, it should be expected that we're going to be leading off the team with our Mega Evolution. There were plenty of options when it came to the normal typing, and Pidgeot was a very tempting option, while Audino and Lopunny were not exactly the most exciting ideas for me. I instead went with the very obvious and very powerful Mega Kangaskhan. The ability that this Mega has in one of the most intriguing in Pokemon history, and was the deciding factor in my move to make it the featured Mega. Parental Bond basically rips the game right from Kangaskhan's pouch and forces it into battle, causing every move that is gone for to be hit twice. The second hit will have the damage done cut down to just a quarter of the original damage, but it's still going to lead to some very good results. Mega Kangaskhan's pretty well built to be dangerous, boasting 100 or over in every stat but special attack. Both of the defenses on this Pokemon are a base 100, and its HP is base 105, giving it plenty of natural bulk. And with its speed also at base 100, it doesn't take any real hit to productivity while having those defenses. Though it's definitely going to be dealing some real hits with a base 125 attack, and that's what we're going to be focusing on when putting in the EVs. I'm giving Kangaskhan 252 in attack and speed, and making it jelly to really push that speed up to where it needs to be to enable it as a sweeper candidate. The attack stat will be pushed up to 348, and that speed is 328, and that attack stat is going to be given a chance to go up with the moveset that I'm about to lay out for you guys. So this moveset I have made for Mega Kangaskhan doesn't rely as much on stab as it does raw power. The only stab move I have given it is Fake Out, and the other 3 moves are Dream Punch, Power Up Punch, and Sucker Punch. Basically, this Kangaskhan is just a boxer, but with good reason. Fake Out is boosted to 60 base power by stab, and as a move you use on the first turn, Kangaskhan steps out in the field, hitting twice of course thanks to that ability and flinching the opponent without fail, unless you've got an ability which prevents that. Dream Punch was such a good move that I really needed to include on the set because it'll be the way Mega Kangaskhan ends up healing, and since it'll hit twice, and without a doubt hard, it's going to be getting back plenty of health with every usage. As is the usual with exceptionally important Pokemon on these teams, keeping them alive for as long as possible should be a top priority for anyone, and this one is no different. The next move is another fighting type one, and that's Power Up Punch. Every time this move is used, Kangaskhan will see its attack go up a stage, and since the move hits twice, you'll essentially double Kangaskhan's attack stat with just one usage. If you end up using it 3 turns and maxing out Kangaskhan's attack, you'll have the tremendous 1392 attack stat that will surely be able to work in tandem with this moveset to knock out anything in one move. Finally, we've got a bit of priority, and our one attack against ghost types, Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch ended up being the move I decided to go with over something like Return, since I wanted to be sure it had an option against the ghost types. And also, having priority I can readily turn to in battle is incredibly important. Sucker Punch relies on the opponent actually using an attacking move themselves, but the odds are they will be, so the move will work just fine. It's great for finishing off Pokemon that might just be hanging on, and like I said before, ghost types. If you treat Mega Kangaskhan like you would your own mother and do your best to keep it around and strong, it'll reward you with an opportunity to sweep the opponent. Following up on Kangaskhan is more power from the first generation. One of my favorite Pokemon to include on best teams, Snorlax. This sleepy boy is incredibly powerful, and I really couldn't have imagined making a best team of normal types without including it. You can't even think of the normal typing without thinking about this beast, and a big part of that reasoning is its great ability to act as a special wall. Snorlax has 160 HP and 110 special defense, giving it all the bulk needed to come in and take those special attacks like it's nothing. Snorlax is also set up with a couple of interesting abilities to choose from, those being Immunity, Thick Fat, and Gluttony. Gluttony. I find Gluttony to be rather useless when putting together a Snorlax, so I had to make my pick between the other two, and from then, Immunity was a clear standout. Seeing as how there are a lot more special attacking threats in the Fire and Ice typings, Snorlax's high special defense will do Thick Fat's job for it. Immunity, however, takes away any chance of Toxic stalling Snorlax away, and that is an important thing to factor in. If a team is heavy on special attackers, there's a good chance that their only real opportunity to take out Snorlax would be using stalling methods. And with the main damage dealing option out of this picture, they'll need to face Snorlax head on, and it simply won't work. As for the stat arrangements, I'm choosing to make this Snorlax an offensive presence, and thus am not doing anything to that 110 special defense, but instead giving it more HP bulk and a higher attack stat. I'm putting 252 EVs into HP and attack, and the adamant nature to bring those stats up to 524 and 350. Snorlax will get a boost in attack, however, as I have given it the Choice Band. The Choice Band will lock its wearer into whatever move it uses, but will multiply its attack by 1.5 times, and thus giving Snorlax a wonderful 525 attack that just barely edges out its HP by a point. Yeah, that's how much bulk this absolute unit has, folks. Now let's get into the moves. Snorlax's moves start off with Body Slam and Earthquake and are followed by Fire Punch and Zen Headbutt. Body Slam is an absolute must for any Snorlax, having a wonderful 127 stab boosted base power and a 30% chance to paralyze the opposing Pokemon. An added bonus for Body Slam is that if your opponent has for whatever reason used the move Minimize to up their evasiveness a bit, you'll end up hitting them without fail. It's logical anyway, seeing as how Minimize is supposed to shrink them down, and that would obviously make them an easier target for Snorlax to squash with a Body Slam. Earthquake is next, and being a base 100 power move, it felt like it would be a nice fit for the set. We want Snorlax to be able to cover a lot of bases and hit incredibly hard while doing so, and a move like this gives it a super effective option against Pokemon like Gengar that it wouldn't be able to touch with its stab. Fire Punch is a 75 base power attack, and is here to cover against Ice, Grass, and especially Bug types that might try and take advantage of Snorlax's poor speed to set up offensively. I'm looking at you, Excalibur and Scolipede. You aren't going to take out our Snorlax as easily as you think you are. Finally, there is Zen Headbutt, which will deal with the only weakness that the normal typing has to contend with, fighting types. I'd highly recommend not letting Snorlax battle fighting types unless it has to, as most of the typing are physical attackers and thus would probably be able to one-shot Snorlax due to its poor physical defenses. Though if you have no choice, then you at least have an 80 base power move with a 30% chance to flinch that you can turn to should you survive a hit. Coming up behind Snorlax is an evolution from Generation 2 that will give it a run for its money as a special wall, Blissey. Now the point to including Blissey, even though it covers for the same thing Snorlax does, is that well, it is going to focus solely on being a defensive Pokemon. I wanted to include Snorlax as an offensive weapon, and thus didn't do much with its special defense. When it comes to Blissey, I want to start to build upon its extremely low physical defense, and give it even more bulk so that it can stand a chance against any threat for at least a turn. I'd take things a step further by giving it the natural cure ability, so any status element that Blissey gets affected with will disappear upon switch out, so trying to stall it out won't work as intended. When it comes to the statistics changes, I didn't put anything into the already high 135 base special defense, and instead decided to put 252 EVs into its base 10 defense to try and get that up as much as possible, and I employed the Bold Nature to help with that. Blissey's physical defense comes out to a still low 130, but the chance of surviving at least one physical attack is there now, and in tandem with 252 EVs put into HP to put that up to a mammoth 714. It's got the bulk to do its job. I also gave Blissey the leftovers so it can keep regaining health at the end of every turn, though it's got a move to help with recovery as well. Speaking of moves, let's get to them. Blissey's moveset is Seismic Toss, Soft Boiled, Toxic, and Heal Bell. Obviously, if you couldn't tell from that lineup of moves, Blissey's definitely not meant to be any sort of attacker. Despite that, however, Seismic Toss will do as much damage to an opponent as Blissey's own level allows, so you've possibly got a move at your disposal that will do 100 damage, which could be around a third of most Pokemon's health. Soft Boiled is a signature move of Blissey, and that will heal Blissey by 50% of its max HP. When we do the math, that comes out to 357 gained every time this move is used, and to put that into perspective, there are only 296 Pokemon that can have a max stat over 357, meaning that the amount of health that Blissey gains by using Soft Boiled once is more than the total HP that can be obtained by over 500 other Pokemon. It really pays off having the highest possible HP in the games. The next move is Toxic, and that is going to be the primary source of damage that Blissey does when out in battle. It's going to use its high HP stat and easy recovery abilities to stall out all special attackers, and hopefully a few physical attackers if you get lucky. Heal Bell is the final move on this set, and it's there to help support the rest of the team if they end up being hit by a status inflicting move. For instance, if Snorlax happens to get burned and have its attack stat crippled, you can use Heal Bell with Blissey and get right back to hitting nice and hard. Blissey is the ultimately special defensive support Pokemon, and its spot on this team is well deserved for a veteran of competitive battling. We're heading to Route 201 in the center region for our next Pokemon, one of the best early route flying top options, hands down, Staraptor. Staraptor definitely was the best of its class leading into the 4th generation, outclassing Pidgeot, Noctowl, and Swallow. This bird packs a true wallop and even had a couple of interesting abilities to work with, Intimidate and Reckless. Now Intimidate would normally be such a solid ability to put on a Pokemon like this because it would cripple the opponent's attack a bit, that's enabling Staraptor to take more hits. However, with the moveset that's been put together for this team, it's a lot smarter for me to give it Reckless. The ability will power up its moves that will have recoil by 1.2 times, and we're going to be running a few of those, so the extra damage will be welcomed. The item I've given is also going to help deal extra damage because it is the Life Orb. The Life Orb drains away a 10th of Staraptor's HP every time it uses a move, but it's going to bump the base power of the moves up by 1.3 times. With such powerful boosts to the physical attacks of Staraptor possible, it's probably rather obvious at this point that we've got ourselves an offensive Staraptor. So that being said, I gave it 252 EVs in speed and attack, with the added miniature to bring the stats up to 299 and 372 respectively. Staraptor is going to have an HP over 300 to help circumvent a pair of poor defense stats, so it should be able to live an attack or two as well. Though that shouldn't be too much of a worry since it's got a pretty good speed stat that you can work in your favor. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to have a couple moves that take advantage of Reckless, and they are Double Edge and Brave Bird, with the other two moves in the set being a Roost and U-Turn. Double Edge and Brave Bird go a bit hand in hand as they both got the same base power at 120 and are also stab while doing 33% of recoil damage. So I'll just group them together here and say that their base power is boosted from stab, Reckless, and the Life Orb to 280 base power. While you lose nearly half of your HP from using either move just once, you've got a pretty good chance of knocking out any Pokemon of just one usage, and we've got Roost waiting in the wings to get your health back up. Roost will take away Staraptor's flying typing for a turn, but will heal 50% of its HP in return, and probably erase the damage done to itself by either of the aforementioned recoil moves. The moveset is rounded out by U-Turn, which is included to give you an option to get Staraptor out of battle if it's got an opponent it just cannot do anything against. Staraptor is a great mid-game flyer Pokemon, and is definitely a glass cannon by virtue of its moveset, so you'll want to use it cautiously if you want to get a lot of productivity out of it. We're keeping it in Sinnoh for the penultimate Pokemon on this team, with yet another one of those new evolutions to previous Pokemon that were introduced into the world. Porygon Z is what happens when an absolute mad lad of a scientist decides that Porygon 2 can go even further beyond. And that miracle feat of science has given us one of the best special attackers the normal typing has to offer, Porygon Z. Porygon Z has got 3 interesting abilities that could vary in usefulness depending on the type of build you're choosing to go with. And in the case of this one that I'll be doing, we're going to be using adaptability. The other 2 abilities you could use are Analytic, which will make Porygon Z's moves have 1.3 times more power if it moves after the opponent does, which means it'll benefit greatly from being slow. And the other ability is Download, which raises its attack or special attack depending on the opponent's lower defense stat. Both of those are good if you've got different plans in mind for your Porygon Z, but with adaptability doubling the power of stab moves instead of just giving it a 1.5 times boost, it just works better in this case. Like I mentioned earlier, Porygon Z is one of the best special attackers among normal types, and that was no lie. It indeed has the highest base special attack of all normal types with 135, and is one of the best that isn't a pseudo, mega, or legendary in the category of special attackers, sharing that 135 with the likes of Alakazam, Volcarona, and Drampa. It should be no surprise that I'll be giving 252 EVs in special attack and speed, as well as the timid nature. With those boosts, Porygon Z ends up having a respectable speed at 306 and an absolutely awesome 369 special attack. That's not going to be all though, as I'm looking for Porygon Z to have some nuclear power, and to accomplish that I'm giving it the toy specs. Much like with the band earlier on Snorlax, the specs will lock Porygon Z into a move, but it will bring its special attack up to 553, and that is just incredibly powerful. Porygon Z's moveset starts off with Tri-Attack, goes into Ice Beam and Thunderbolt, and then ends of Psyshock. If we're truly talking about nuclear power, then look no further than Tri-Attack. I have featured this move on best teams in this series before a very few times, and you guys have always seemed to have no love for it. But on Porygon Z, it's incredibly good. Thanks to adaptability, the power of Tri-Attack shoots up to 160, and it becomes just a destructive presence in battle. A high 553 special attack stat and a 160 base power move is more than likely not something a majority of Pokemon can't handle. But even if they do, they have to worry about a 20% chance of either being burned, paralyzed, or frozen. You guys know my love for involving hacks in a battle, and when the odds are as good as they are to leave a Pokemon with some sort of ailment if they actually survive a powerful move like this, it's just incredible. Ice Beam is next, and it's here for some coverage against Ground, Grass, and Dragon type. It's base 90 power, and has a 10% chance to freeze, and it'll be nice to turn to if you're up against something Tri-Attack wouldn't be as effective against, like a Rock type. Thunderbolt is another move in the same vein as Ice Beam, having a 90 base power and a 10% chance to paralyze the opponent, except this time it'll be a good move to turn to, if and against a Steel type. As for Psyshock, that's a great option against Ghost type Pokemon, and it also takes into account the opponent's physical defense instead of their special defense. So if you're up against a wall that could have tanked multiple Tri-Attacks, they're probably not going to be happy of taking a Psyshock or two. Porygon Z is such a fun Pokemon, and could very well sweep any team if it could continuously pull out Tri-Attack. So it's time to start wrapping things up here with the final Pokemon on the team. Generation 6 is Diggersby. Diggersby, much like with what I mentioned about Staraptor earlier, is definitely at the top of the food chain when it comes to the first ret normal types, and is honestly probably the best across all generations, unless your name is Joey and you really love Rattata. Diggersby is outfitted with one of the best abilities in the game, being huge power, and we're definitely going to be upping its attack so it can take full advantage of that. There are two abilities for Diggersby, being Pickup and Cheek Pouch, but neither one of those are any good for what we're doing on this team today. Honestly, if huge power were one part of things, Diggersby wouldn't even be a good Pokemon at all, but thankfully it is, and we don't have to worry about that. As for its stats, we're going to be adding in 252 EVs to both attack and speed, and I'll be surprisingly giving it the Jolly nature instead of making it adamant. Since Diggersby will have its attack stat doubled by huge power and already be pretty strong, I want to make sure it can have a good shot at outspeeding some other Pokemon and allow it to make full use of that attack stat. Its attack will be at 211 and double up to 422. Its speed will be at 280, setting it up for battle against just about anything. Diggersby is joining a long line of physical attackers on this team, since that's just where the attacking strength of most normal types seems to lie. But it is not a slouch when it is compared to its fellow team members like Snorlax and Mega Kangaskhan. Diggersby is working with Earthquake, Return, Quick Attack, and Iron Head, and boy is it working hard. Earthquake is just about Diggersby's strongest move, having a stat boosted 150 base power, and is generally going to be the move you turn to as long as the opponent isn't using Levitate or Flying/Bug type. That would normally be all well and good for a move, but those of you paying close attention probably noticed I didn't list off Diggersby's item earlier, and that is because it'll be holding the Ground DMZ. The Ground DMZ is going to turn Earthquake into the Z move, Tectonic Rage, and that will hit with a stat boosted 270 power, seemingly knocking out anything that would unfortunately be hit by it. Return is actually the strongest move for Diggersby if you end up maxing out its friendship entirely, which I'm going to assume you will be doing. It's a stat boosted 153 base power move, and it'll be a great general attack to go for right alongside Earthquake. Except with this move, you lose out on being able to hit ghost types, but gain the ability to do neutral damage to flying and bug types. As for Quick Attack, that's going to be a stat boosted 60 base power, and a perfect move to finish off a Pokemon with, more than likely being able to KO most Pokemon even when they're in the 5th to quarter range of the HP left. Iron Head closes things out, and that's there for the sake of giving you an option to hit for super effective damage against fairy types, and also this carries a wonderful 30% chance to flinch opponents, and that is something that could definitely come in handy during a battle. Well, that is going to completely finish things off for the best team for normal types. The normal typing has an unfortunate designation within the fandom as being boring, but I hope that the lineup you guys got with this team proves otherwise. Remember, I even pulled this one together without featuring any sort of legendary, mythical, or pseudo, and it was still good. I want to hear from you guys though, so please let me know what you guys think about this team in the comments. If you use it, let me know how it goes. Would you guys do anything differently? And is there any Pokemon you'd rather see in the team that wasn't included? Let me know everything down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, why not leave a like and subscribe to my channel with notifications on. That way you never miss an upload. If you want to support me further, consider following my Twitch where I stream a lot of Pokemon content and all kinds of other Nintendo content like Zelda, Fire Emblem, and much more. Want to support me further and gain cool perks? Check out my Patreon. Daniel Leone, Lady Crimson, Memory Martin, The Lazy Leo, Matthew Young, Awesome Lego, Jarrett Weiss Austin, Sodden Grider, and Enigma97 did, and I want to thank them personally for going above and beyond. It means the world to me. I think I'm gonna wrap this up though. I'm Mr. Gumbrand, and I will see you in the future for more awesome Pokemon content.